Hello everybody, James here, and it's Ask Dutch Anything that we do every single Tuesday. This is the show where you get to send in your questions to the Dirty Dutchman himself, and the best ones will get asked to the crafty veteran. You do that via questionsfordutch@gmail.com. You email them in there, but just before we do, very quick version of the plugs. Pro Wrestling Tees, the links are in the description. Books, diplomas, hats, signed stuff from Dutch himself. You email Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com for those. I've got 2 books as well, Owen, Hart and The Rock. Links are in the description. You get those from Amazon. And we're also on Facebook, Storytime with Dutch Mantell. Facebook links are in the description, and you can just search for it. It's easy enough, and that's growing day by day as well with some exclusive content if you follow us. So we've got an hour, or a bit less than an hour actually, of fan questions people sent in from the last week, and the first one is from a guy who I've just realised I'm going to really butcher their surname. Oh, by the way, where's the cigar this week? Has it just fallen apart?
I don't know. I think it just fell apart. Wait a minute. I'm going to have to go get me one.
Yeah, I mean, last week it was looking pretty manky.
Yeah, I think it's about... Well, see, I don't ever smoke them.
Are you looking for it? Have you found it?
No. I think it's gone.
Now, I'm getting used to the point where I'm just doing this constantly, and I'm just talking with my mouth full. I think a lot of people think I smoke, which I don't, because I've just got a habit of chewing my pen and doing that all the time. But anyway. So, first question is from John Crasap, and he says, Dutch, what are your memories of the ECW invasion of USWA in 1997? What was it like backstage? Just another day at the office? Any funny stories?
I don't know where this idea came from. I think ECW wanted to come down, and I think they just wanted to get tape of them going to another place and wrestling a different group of people. And it was good. It was good TV. And do I have any stories? A few. See, with that time, business, and this was when WWF had taken over everything. I mean, Memphis, they had gotten out of the Mid-South Coliseum, and things were so bad they had gone down to a flea market type deal where they had a building where they would have, flea markets, I guess. We would set the ring up, and we'd have maybe 300-400 people, but they would run it on a Sunday afternoon. And it was just, it wasn't Memphis again like that anymore. And I was working with Dreamer one time, and we were doing ECW crap. We wasn't wrestling. We just fighting in the crowd and going out the front of the building and coming back in and just crazy stuff.
Lebanon, Tennessee, I'm looking at.
Lebanon.
What
was that?
Lebanon, Tennessee? Is that what it's called?
What? Where we were?
Yeah, apparently so, yeah.
No, it was not Lebanon. It was Memphis, but it was another part of Memphis.
Okay.
It was on a Sunday afternoon. Dreamer picked up a chair. I'm used to chairs down south. We have a little respect for people's brains. That MFer hit me so friggin' hard. He almost knocked me out. And I said, I reached up and I poked him in the eye, and I said, stand right there. And I pulled that chair back, and I didn't hit him as hard as I could, but pretty damn hard. And he didn't say a word. And then we finished the match and got back there. I said, what was with that chair shot? He said, what's wrong with it? I said, you damn near killed me. He says, really? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I said, how was mine? He said, good. And I hit him pretty hard. I said, my God, see, the business, we work the business to keep from killing each other. And people called it fake. Then when we tried to hit people as hard as we could with chairs, and they still called it fake, so we couldn't win. But I do remember another thing. I was going around the ring, and some guy stood up and got right in my face. Pretty big guy. He's about 6'1", 6'2". He said, "Dutch, he kicking your ass out over here, man, blah, 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 blah." And I said, I don't know why. He just got on my nerves. I said, "What'd you say? What are you, deaf?" Brother, I swear I come back from way down south somewhere. I come back from like Pensacola, Florida, with a slap to Memphis. And I hit him, and it rang out all over the place. And he stood there like this. And I said, "Any more questions?" And he didn't know what to say then. So then we finished the match. And the match was over, and the cop brought him back. And he says, he said, "You hit him." I says, "I didn't hit him." I said, "What do you mean I hit you?" He said, "Yeah, you slapped me out there." I said, "Oh, brother, I'm just playing with you. I didn't do nothing." And the cop said, "Get out of here," and threw him out. And I never saw him again. So, but yeah, the working with those ECW guys, they try to bring their really hardcore stuff south, which would probably have worked had they still been in a big building and still, if we could tell a few stories, but it didn't work out.
Did you wrestle any other ECW guys in this little period in '97, or was it just Dreamer?
I wrestled Dreamer, and I think I'd wrestled Sandman. The Sandman was okay because he was more gimmick than anything, but they'd all hit you hard. I mean, I said, damn. They was trying to take a fake business and damn make it real. And people still wasn't buying it. But anyway, I didn't enjoy that little run.
Chris Gonzalez from Clovis, California says, "Any thoughts on Erik Watts? I saw you rank promoters' sons who were the worst. Where would you put him at? Or do you think he wasn't that bad? Thank you for your great podcast." Thank you.
Well, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't good. And I think he, by virtue of who his father was, he thought he deserved more. He was privileged, as they say. And he wasn't that good, but he was okay. But he damn sure wasn't in the class of George Goulas or David Flair or any of those guys. So he was better than they were. So
I've interviewed Erik, and he self-admittedly, aside from the fact that he had like only a few weeks training when Bill started pushing him in a feud with like Rick Rude of all people.
Mm-hmm.
And according to Erik, he just lent into the spoilt promoter's son backstage as well, you know, driving an old Porsche and stuff, and sort of like, I don't know, somehow he was portraying himself. He wasn't portraying himself in a light that was going to engender support for him, especially with the fact that he was getting a huge push with only a few weeks training as well.
Well, maybe he didn't need training. Maybe I think Bill was trying to kill his own territory anyway. Because that used to be, it was long in Louisiana.
No, this is in WCW when Erik was debuted, yeah. So Bill
he didn't debut in Mid-South.
No, this is like around 92. I think 92 maybe.
Yeah, but he didn't get too far in WCW.
No. He came back at the end of WCW, and do you know what? He was actually pretty entertaining, but he was only on like the C shows and stuff, and then he did the TNA run when he was an authority for the most part in TNA in like 2003, 2004. You were there with him for a brief period.
I was there. Do I remember him? No.
Next one. Alex says, "Why does nobody speak badly about Andre the Giant? He sounds like a huge bully. And you always get someone saying he stood on my hair, punched me, then did a fart on my head. What a sweetie."
Andre was okay till he got to drinking. And when he got drinking, he got mean and he got aggressive. So if guys were smart, And he only worked with a certain group of guys anyway, till they put him in battle royals. And I saw him hit about, I may have said this before here, but he hit one guy because he didn't like him. He was in a battle royal. He hit him so hard, he literally knocked him through the ropes. You know, the guy didn't just take a bump and go through the ropes. He hit him and he flew through the ropes. And boy, the sound of him hitting him. See, I'm trying to show you. Okay, that's some hand soap here. Andre would take a beer, and they said a beer would look like this in his hands, and he'd take it, and he'd do 12 ounce, 16 ounces quick. He could go through a case a night, and then he would get hammered, and he got mean. So if he liked you, you were okay. But it didn't matter if he got drunk. He would just go to the ring, and he was a big draw in his early days. Later on, WWE, I think they kind of wrapped him up, and he didn't make the tours anymore. He just did the WWE shows or WWF shows, and he didn't go to Florida anymore, and he didn't go to the Carolinas, and he didn't go to Georgia, and he didn't go anywhere, just where Vince wanted him to be. And that's basically what his career ended up. When did he die?
93, early 93.
Wow. I didn't know that.
With that being said, not people who are, just trying to get a laugh and a joke or a bit of a rise out of somebody, but, I mean, you've been in the wrestling business many years. Who were the biggest bullies and genuine bullies?
I'm trying to think. Most of the guys, I think Vader was a big bully till he met Paul Orndorff. And Orndorff, I think this was after Orndorff got hurt too.
No, long after, yeah.
But Vader was kind of bullyish. That's the one that I'm remembering. I don't remember. Would you have a one other in mind?
Some other names that have come up over the years. I won't bring them all. Do you know one that really surprised me that I've only heard once, but you wouldn't have met him, was Ludwig Borger, because he was a bit before your time in the WWF, and he was like this Finnish guy.
I know who he is. I never met him though.
Yeah, he was meant to be a real butthole in real life as well. But
that's what I heard, because he was an asshole.
We'll move on. Christian Titus writes in and says, "Good day, Dutch and James. Quick question regarding wrestlers' actual heights / build heights. At their peak, what would you say were what would you say were Kane's, The Undertaker's, and Big Show's real heights? I know some wore lifts at a certain stage in their careers. Kind regards." So, Kane, The Undertaker, and Big Show real heights. You roomed with The Undertaker. You must have got a gauge.
Okay. What did they say Andre was?
Well, at any point, he was billed as up to 7'4", but that was I think most people think that was very much a build height.
Yeah, I think he was like no more than 7 feet, which is a big guy. Big guy. Undertaker was 6'9". Kane, I think maybe 6'9" too. And Big Show was almost as big as Andre in height. I saw a picture of him, so I don't know who had lifts on and who didn't. So it would be surprising if we learned if Andre had lifts himself. Hey, we need to put that out. Andre always wore lifts. And everybody could call us a bunch of liars. And I say, I got a picture of it. And then they want to see it. And I just show 2 feet. No face with it or nothing. And he's on some lifts. I said, that's it. That's his feet right there. And I don't know what else you need to know.
I remember you posting a really obviously photoshopped photo of Andre the Giant looking up to Robert Wadlow or whatever it
Oh
was,
yeah, oh yeah,
like the tallest man in history. He was like
yeah.
8 foot something.
And I said, "Where did they meet?" And somebody said, "Hey, that's a doctored picture, you idiot." And I said, "Oh, okay."
Oh,
But
dearie me.
how tall was that Wardlow guy or Wadlow? Or
He's like Robert Wadlow.
he was 8 feet, right?
He was over 8 feet. Yeah, I think he was like by far the tallest person who've ever lived, as well. Verifiable anyway. I don't know if I've asked you this before. Maybe I have, but who do you remember having the biggest discrepancy between build height and actual height?
I never paid attention to it, to tell you the truth. I would just say, well, what did they say Undertaker was?
Oh, I think they were. I think for Undertaker they claimed 6'9". I think for Kane they claimed 6'10", but he wore big lifts, especially in the early days. I'm trying to think of any other lift wearers. I know Jericho wore lifts for a long time. I don't know if he still does.
How tall is Jericho?
Well, in real life, I mean, he could be as short as 5'8". I don't think he's any taller than 5'9".
Yeah, I think 5'8", because I met him in Smoky Mountain, and him and his partner Lance, they were like the same height, but they were shorter than I was. And I was like 5'11", 5'10". But I was taller than they were. And then later on, I had my picture made with Jericho, and we were the same height. So he either got taller or I got shorter. But
we shall move on. Evan Maloney says, my main question for Dutch is the theme song that was used during your time with the Real Americans with Jack Swagger. It really sounded so patriotic and inspiring that it's been stuck in my mind since the first time that it was used. I instinctively say we the people when I hear it. It's that inspiring. Did you or Swagger have any input on the theme or how the theme should sound like, or was it all Vince's idea?
It was my idea because I wrote that music. You didn't know I was a music writer either, did you?
I still don't know that.
Oh, okay. No, that was it. That was all there. I don't know if it was Vince. Vince ordered it, I'm sure. And whoever was doing the music then, I don't know if it was still the Johnson guy. I think he was gone by then.
Yeah, it would have been. It probably would have been CFOs at that time, maybe.
But what's a CFO?
Oh, it was just like some in-house band that pretty much replaced Jim Johnson.
But yeah, they did it. I didn't have anything to do with it. So, but I did really enjoy it.
Well, that's the follow-up question. What did you and Jack Swagger think of the theme song, and did it fit with his American hero that Jack was portraying at the time?
It did. It was exactly the song. It sounded like a patriotic song anyway. And that's what it was supposed to sound like. And we'd walk out on stage and they'd play it, and the people stand up. And I've told this before. People said, "Oh, you're going to be one of the biggest heels ever." And I went, because I wanted it to be true, but I could tell that when I would go out there, they weren't booing me so much. You know, some of them were, but most of them, at least half of them, were kind of agreeing with me. And Vince said, "How are the people taking you?" I said, "Oh man, they hate me. They hate me." Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want. So you go out there and they're supposed to not like you, but you start talking to them where they can understand and how this country was going to the dogs. And this was 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. I remember I had a picture, and I had a sign. I used to take signs out with me. And I said, every 90 seconds, I forgot, the illegals cross the border. Every 90 seconds, a new illegal crosses the border. And that was 2013, 2014. Now look how many has come across the border. But I did my civic duty, and I tried to warn everybody, but nobody listened. And look, my prediction came true. or overrun with them.
Yeah, you have to update that sign. Next question. Cow Palace Dave says, James, I remember Cowboy Frankie Laine wrestled in one of Roy Shire's famous battle royals in the early 1970s. I believe Dutch and Frankie Laine held the tag team title together. What memories does Dutch have of Cowboy Frankie Laine? Well, I mean, surely great memories. I mean, you and he made huge money together.
Made a lot of money together. You know, when they put us together, went to Puerto Rico on January the 6th. Now you say January the 6th is Insurrection Day. But January the 6th is Three Kings holiday. Now, if you're a Catholic, you know that. I'm not a Catholic. I'm more closer to being a heathen than anything. So it was a huge holiday in Puerto Rico, and nobody ever told me. I says, it was like a Tuesday too. I went, what is January the 6th and a Tuesday, and who's going to come to the show? So we went over there, and it's sold completely out. There's like 16,000 people in that building. Now, and Frankie, I never met him before that day. We went into the office. And Frankie was kind of hard to understand because you'd be talking to him and he'd be doing this. And what happened is he got in an argument with a wrestler named Zulu. And Zulu went out of the building and then came back out and brought like a 2x4 and hit him in the back of the head.
It was like a wrench or something like that.
Maybe something like that. And almost killed him, almost dead. So that's why he had trouble talking, and he was always blinking his eye, but a great worker in the ring. He could still go. So the day after the January the 6th, or 2 days after, Carlos Colon, who owned the territory, he was a booker and an owner, he invited us down to the office, and we're going to talk about what we want to do. Well, hell, I'd never been asked what I wanted to do before. I was always listening to the booker, and I would say some things to him, whoever he was. So we're going down there. We got a cab, and me and Frankie were going. And Frankie, he would talk like this. He said, "Well, Dutch, they're going." I didn't hardly know him really. He said, "They're going to ask us what we want to do. What are we going to do?" And I went, well, and I just had an idea. I says, listen, why don't we do this? Let's present to them the $1,000 silver dollar challenge match. Just off the top of my head. Because I had read about 1,000 silver dollars. And in Puerto Rico, they didn't have them. But any team that could beat us in 10 minutes or less on TV, we'd give them 1,000 silver dollars, American silver dollars. So we went down there and we sit down, and Carlos, he looked at us and he's like this. He always smoked a big cigar. That cigar was damn 2 foot long. He said, well, what do you guys want to do? He's asking us, or asking me, what we want to do. Hell, it's his company. I said, well, we got this great idea. And I give him the 1,000 silver dollar challenge match. Oh, he loved it. He said, man, that is good. That is really good. He said, but let's change it. What if not that any team can beat you, that a team that you have to beat the team, whoever the team is. And that gave us a hell of a start, because now, and I didn't know it, but we're telling a story. And every week, we was on TV every week against the team, and they would bring the silver dollars out, because they could go to I forgot who had the silver dollars, but the other owner down there was called Victor Jovica. And he was from Croatia. Now, what he was doing in Puerto Rico, I have no idea. And he couldn't speak Spanish, and he couldn't hardly speak English. So talking to him it was a chore. But anyway, they give us $1,000 and they would put it out at TV every time we was in the ring. And so if any team beat us or we couldn't beat that team, they would get the $1,000. And then we took it from about January to about March to when we shot the angle with Carlos and another guy, and they beat us. And we had a riot we was in a TV studio. We had a riot in the TV studio. One little woman, she had looked like she was about 80. She come up and hit me in the back of the head with not a chair, but something. It wasn't her purse. It was like some kind of club. It didn't hurt me or nothing. And that's when we started the 9-week run of sellouts. And we would go to those buildings. The matches would start at 8:00. I'm sorry, 8:30. It's supposed to start. And we would go into the arena. We would go in early because we had to get there early or you couldn't get a parking spot. In big stadiums, and we'd have to get there about 6:00, and they'd be lined up to go in. So for 9 straight weeks, we sold out every baseball stadium we were in, and we set a record there. And I said this on the show the other day, that I bought my first house off that 9-week run. So, but Frankie was a great worker, but I always thought we only stayed there 9 months. And I thought, well, why? And we were still a hot team. I said, why are they, they gave us they released us for whatever reason, I don't know. But I was about ready to go anyway. So you stay in Puerto Rico long enough, you get what they call island fever, and you just can't stay there anymore. Plus, it was very, very dangerous going to those matches. Those people really wanted to kill you. I didn't know that, but I know it now.
I've got some follow-up questions about Frankie. Was he in Puerto Rico before you, or were you both brought in on the same day?
Now, I think he was in. No, we both flew in the same day. I think he was in Puerto Rico again after me. Mm-hmm. I think that's what happened.
I'm just looking at his matches. I think his final matches were actually in the WWF, so he was just doing some jobs there at 87, and he stopped wrestling after that. So he started wrestling in the 60s. Detroit's AWA, still in the 60s, that kind of thing.
Well, he's Canadian. I forgot what town he was from in Canada. Edmonton, Windsor.
Alvinston, Ontario, Canada, it says.
Okay.
So, where were his biggest successes apart from Puerto Rico?
Frankie's?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't. I think it was probably for the Sheik. In the Sheik's territory in Ohio and down through there, in not Chicago, but I forgot. Sheik ran Detroit. It was Detroit down into Ohio, Dayton, and all those towns. I think he had some success there.
How was he as an interview, as a talker? Or did he just rely on you?
He couldn't talk. If he talked, he couldn't sell one ticket. And he just stood back behind me, and this is where I learned to do interviews too, because I was doing interview and they would say about 15 seconds of your interview and stop, or 20 seconds and stop, and the translator will pick it up. Okay. And he'll translate your English into Spanish, and then he will come back to me and he says, and go ahead, sir. So this is where I learned, don't talk about your opponent so much, because instead of attacking them verbally, I attacked the fans. And I said, hey, listen, I hate this place. I said, you people sit on here on welfare. I said they were all on welfare. I said, the guys all look like I didn't say this, but I did say they all looked like homosexuals. And the women looked like underpaid prostitutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we don't need to give you people another dime of federal aid because you don't know English. And I think it should be required that everybody speak English. And they said, well, maybe you need to learn Spanish. I said, no. And this is what got me a lot of heat. I said, Spanish to me is a primitivo idioma, which is a primitive language. That's what got me the heat. So, and I'd go down the street, and that's how I learned to cuss in Spanish. They'd say, I forgot the cuss words in Spanish, but when they started, if somebody says it, I would know what it is. But they would call me SOB and bastard and this, that, and the other, and everything else. Just going down the street, I couldn't walk 5 steps without somebody saying something to me. So it got so bad at one point, I had to stay in my room at it was on the 7th floor. I was on the 7th floor, and I just stayed there and drink beer. And say we only worked 3 days a week. Sometimes we worked 4, but your work week started on Friday. You go to Ponce, which is about an hour and a half drive. And then Saturday was the big town around San Juan. And then the Sunday show was usually on the other side of the island, Mayaguez or something like that. And that was an all-day deal. And that was an afternoon show too, so you'd have to leave about 11 o'clock in the morning. So, but I enjoyed Puerto Rico, and I mean, when I got down there, I thought, how long has this company been in business? I thought they'd been in business like 20 years. They'd only been in business like 2 years, 3 years. Hell, they were just breaking in. So, but I survived it and didn't enjoy it, but I did survive the whole trip.
Did you ever team with Frankie after this? Was there no thought of ever starting up this tag team again? Because obviously it worked.
No. Like in another place.
Same place. I mean, you could have done a revival of a couple of years after.
We could have, but by that time Memphis had gotten hot. I mean, we were doing 10,000 people in Memphis every Monday. Money was pretty good. So there was no need to leave when we were making money. So
it's funny you mentioned Memphis, because the next question is from James. Hello, Dutch. I've always been a big fan of the Memphis wrestling. I always wondered why Bill Dundee never made it to any of the bigger promotions. I remember seeing him about 20 years ago selling T-shirts out the back of his car at a gas station in Jackson, Tennessee.
I've heard that story.
You have to tell us that story. Just seemed like he could have done more like Jerry Law or Jeff Jarrett. Thank you for your time. Okay, so selling T-shirts out of his car.
Well, I heard somebody else saw him at. He had some T-shirts, and he had a sign, Bill Dundee or something, T-shirts or pictures or whatever. I don't know how long he was there.
Have you seen the airbrushed car that you used to have?
Oh yeah, I did see that. What did it say on that car?
Damn, I'll find a picture of it in a minute. Chris, edit it in if you can here. So it says for bookings and merchandise, www.bill-superstar-dundee-enterprises.com. Who's got time in their day to write that much? Let alone if it's like driving past. It's like, what did that say?
Oh, yeah. What kind of car is that? What year was that car?
Probably.
Well, he had it all jazzed up.
God, look at them wheels, man.
You know that Evansville show that I was supposed to do and I didn't do?
Yes.
Bill was there. And from what I'm hearing from the guys that were there, and I love Bill, but Bill's very forgetful now. And he asked Lawler one time, he said, Jerry, what time are we on tonight? On at we on main event? And Jerry said, yeah, Bill, we're on the main event. Didn't even have a show that night. It was just just a convention. Jerry just agreed with him. So, but he was there. They said you can't hold his attention long, they say. And I don't know how old Bill is. I think Bill.
He's gone 80, I think.
Maybe 81.
Just looking now. He was born October 43, so he's 80.
Okay. 81.
Well, he'll be 80. He'll be 81 in October.
Okay. So, but I wish I could have made Evansville because I really like that town, like those people. I like the guys I work with, and I would like to have seen them too. So sorry, folks, if you had plans to go to the Evansville show and I wasn't there, I apologize for that.
Okay, so why did Bill Dundee not have the success of Jeff Jarrett or Jerry Lawler or some of the other people in Memphis? Or you?
Because of Jerry Jarrett. Jerry Jarrett, he liked hard workers and he liked talent that could do interviews, believable work. And I wasn't that big. I was like 215 maybe in those days, no more than 220. And Dundee was like 5'5". He was really short. And he weighed about, at most, 190 pounds. So you got to have somebody, not in creative, but in a booker position who wants to use you right. So a lot of people just looked at size as they wanted to get you over. Then if they look at you and you're too small, you don't fit. So they don't have any ideas for you. But Jerry, and this is where I learned the book, watching him. And he told me about the story and how you piece it. And say if you got a big show down the road, say 5 weeks, well, you just click it off. What do you want to do every week till you get to that show? And then have an idea of what you want to do out of that show. And are you going to continue it? Or are you going to split it? Or what are you going to do? But I learned so much, listened to him and even Dundee, because Dundee had a variety. I mean, Memphis had a variety of bookers.
True. Springfield. Which one's M.O.? Missouri, is it?
What is it?
M.O.
Missouri.
Dutch, thanks for taking my question. It's a quick 2-part question. Number 1, while you were wrestling, what match did you say to yourself, wow, I got a little too bloody for my own good? We'll stick with that one for now. So the match that you bled more than any other.
I think it was like by accident. I was in this match and I just bled too much. And from that point on, listen, I'm gonna use this word. I'm a pussy. Anytime I have to stick myself with anything sharp that could result in loss of blood, hey, I wasn't a big fan of that at all. So I was in this town one night and I actually got too much, but the promoter saw it. And he said, hey, that's what we need. So then he told me the next night or the week after, they wanted some more. This time I didn't get any. They said, what happened? I said, oh, I lost it. Said, you lost what? The blade? I said, yeah, it's out there in the ring somewhere. I don't know where. But I just didn't want to get it. So finally, I would get sometime. Here, I have actually gotten more blood shaving sometimes than I got in the ring. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that. Because I thought I've seen guys that do it. Oh, it's friggin' brutal. I looked at Abdullah's head. I look at Carlos Colon's head. I look at Bobby Jagger's head, or Cowboy Bob Ellis and those guys.
God, Cowboy Bob Ellis, that's a callback, isn't it?
It is. But they were
still alive, apparently. I think he's like 96 or 7 or something.
And that's how they made their living, through actually bleeding a lot. But you would look at their head, I swear to God, you could see the intersection of Interstate 4 and 75 run together. Oh my God. It looked like a map. It looked horrible. And I said, listen, if I break both legs or I break my something and I got to go get a job and my head looks like that, they're going to look at me like, get the hell out of here. You ain't coming here to work. So see, not too bad, huh?
No, not too bad.
I'm not doing it. So,
hey, do you know who I saw at that WrestleCon? And we just said, because I don't want to let on to anybody who I don't think will recognise me. And Bushwhacker Luke recognised me.
Yeah.
And I just looked at his forehead as well, briefly.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
it's a roadmap, right?
Yeah, he's got a bit of a roadmap. Just when it went a bit wrong for you, right? So why did it go wrong? Did he just catch the vein and that was it, or did he go too deep? Or
yeah, I went too deep. I didn't know what. Nobody showed me what to do.
Oh, so this was like the first time you'd ever done it?
Yeah.
Really? How old were you? What territory?
I was in Tennessee. This is but before Memphis.
Oh, so this was Goulas times.
This was Goulas.
Right.
And Goulas had Memphis, so I was making Memphis, and I was making those towns, but I didn't much care for it, so I kind of stopped it.
Well, no, sorry.
What is your next question about?
Well, it says what match or who's the opponent when you looked across the ring and said, wow, he is way too bloody to continue. So what was the match, the absolute bloodiest someone got that you thought they would die?
I've been in several matches like that. But I like them really bloody. You know why? And you can take their blood.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And you go back to the dressing room. Most, that's what I like, man. What I like, buddy. No, but I've been in the ring with some real kings of the juice. Probably Carlos Colon. He'd almost bleed not every night, but every weekend. He'd bleed every weekend, and a lot, because he had a lot of matches with Abdullah. So, and then Abdullah, he's another one. Just bleed like a stuck pig. Jaggers. Oh, Jaggers bleed like hell. All over the place. And Cowboy Bob Ellis, Terry Funk. Oh. And even my old buddy, old Ric Flair, he'd get it sometimes. Yeah,
blonde hair, great for it.
And there's been a lot of them, and that's how they made their living.
I'm looking. We've got time for maybe 2 more questions, but you never know. Oh, there's some really good ones here as well. I don't want to have to leave some. Well, we'll just have to do them next week. Scott from Illinois says, hello, Dutch. With leg slapping rampant all over the wrestling world, yep. Why is it never brought up the foot stomp to the mat punch? During the 80s and 90s, many wrestlers would stomp for sound effect for a punch or a kick. My favourite all-time wrestler was One Man Gang, and he would stomp and let out a loud yell while punching, and it looked like it would kill a man. Just wondering why leg slaps get crapped on, but stomp punching doesn't or did. Thanks.
Well, both of them could get by if you don't do it too much. The Bucks and AEW, they do like 20 super kicks a match. It's just too much. And they don't beat anybody with it.
And the Usos, they do it too much.
Yeah, it's used too much. And it's an art form to kick somebody, come close but not touch them. And the leg slap is boom, it's gone. So, but I don't know why. I often thought, why don't we do this different? Why don't we throw the kick? No, no, we'll pull the stomp of the foot and throw the punch and just knock the hell out of the guy. But yeah, I don't know why that is, but hey, this it's a crazy business. It cannot be explained. It really can't. It happens or it doesn't happen. What was that guy? What was our questioner's name?
Scott from Illinois.
Scott, I don't wish I had a better answer than that, but I don't. So it's just one of those. I wish it was different.
I'm gonna go on that question a bit more. Who were the best punchers who could either? Because I've heard a couple of different ways. You know, you could do it. Well, just blowing the microphone out there. But, you know, do it on your bicep or something. Or occasionally, I've heard slap the belly and make that noise at the same time.
Yeah.
Who are the best at timing those?
On a punch?
Yeah.
Oh, there were a lot of guys. I don't know. Lawler threw such a. But you know, I never noticed where Lawler did the slap. I couldn't tell you right now if he does it, but he was so accurate on his punches. And he told me one time why he was that good on the punch is because he's an artist and he works in minute detail, which makes sense. So, and he would probably throw some of the best punches that I've ever saw thrown. And the people believe that.
Now, I don't know if you can have much of an answer for this one. If you don't, we'll move on to one more question. Dylan says, hello, James and Dutch. Whose blood do you think Vince McMahon has on his hands? As in, whose death do you think he inadvertently caused? Thanks. Well, that's a dark question.
Well, I don't know what that question means. I really don't. What I think, the closest I can come to it is Jimmy Snuka. And that girl in New York City or whenever it was, when Snuka, she ends up flying out of a window or something. You remember that?
Yeah, that wasn't out of a window. He shoved her in the hotel room.
Okay.
Allegedly. And
Vince went down and talked to the cops. I don't know what happened, but Snuka was never charged with that, right?
No, I think what he means by the question is of all the wrestlers who have worked for Vince McMahon directly, who do you think he has, with his own actions or booking them too much or ignoring their issues, has basically enabled them to die? I mean, you could argue Brian Pillman, you could argue Owen Hart, you could argue not that many, because very few people who actively work for the WWF died out. You could argue Test, because his drug issues were ignored for so long. There are so many. In that sense, is Vince culpable?
Hey, it's a job, and it's a business. And Vince has to run a business, and he can't stand over the wrestlers or the employees all the time. Because the only time he would see them is at TV or at the pay-per-views would be the only time he would see them. And he would only get reports through the agents. So, but I do think Brian Pillman was probably, I think he was he was screaming for help. And there were a few more there probably that needed attention, but you can't blame Vince for it. I mean, Vince McMahon, you can't blame him. Say if he'd done this, he'd done that. Yeah, I understand that, but he didn't, and it's just the way life is.
Yeah, some people have argued that lax drug testing and stuff is Vince's ultimately Vince enabling people to do stuff, but you're saying, hey, you're all individuals, you're big boys and girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bam Bam Bigelow. I'll tell you the story.
Oh yeah, with the drug test. Yeah. Well,
he missed it, but he failed it, but he did the right thing.
We'll do one more then. Homer Thompson says, I love the show and it makes the hours at work fly by. I was wondering, what do you remember of participating in the WWF's Prodigy Chats back in the mid-90s? How many did you do? Were you allowed to break kayfabe and be honest about the nature of the business at the time? I'll add another thing here. Could you talk about WCW and stuff at the time? Were they mandatory? Were they done exclusively at TV tapings and pay-per-views, or did you ever do any from home? Thanks. So the Prodigy Chats, how would you get roped into those?
I bought a computer. I kept hearing about this computer stuff. So I went down and I bought this computer. Guess what I paid for it?
God, in the 90s, $1,000.
About $1,300. I said, I'm going to find out about this computer stuff. So I got on there and, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to, all I knew how to is to turn it on. But through trial and error, I finally found this Prodigy, what would you call that Prodigy? It was like
It wasn't social media, but it was just like a chat thing where you could chat with many fans.
Well, I found Prodigy, and they had all kind of things, car racing and football and basketball, and they had a wrestling section there. And somehow I said, oh, wow, this is wrestling. Let me read this. So I got to reading it, and all these people writing in and this, that, and the other. And it was fun, but no, it wasn't mandatory. It wasn't even, WWF had nothing to do with it. I just found it, and I would do it from home. And what was this question?
Well, I think it was presumed that you were doing it through the WWF. So, like, you and Bradshaw would be roped into doing an online chat. No, this was just something you were doing at home.
Yes. No. And would even with, I think this was before WWF. I don't know what year it was. I think it was before it could have been, I don't know. But it wasn't mandatory. It was voluntary, and we would, because people they were trying me out to see what information I would give them. So,
well, would you give information out, or would you give your opinions on the wrestling war or anything like that, or would you stay within character for the most part?
No, I would actually stay in character, and they respected that. And so we had because I'm a good fast typer. So it went pretty fast. I enjoyed it. It was good.
Right. On that last question, we're going to be done. We're going to wrap up the podcast. So thank you, everybody, for writing in. We can never get to everybody's questions. I do apologise about that. We get a lot of questions in every day, but please keep writing in. Questions for Dutch@gmail.com. And at the beginning, we said, obviously, we've got the Facebook, we've got the T-shirts, we've got all the signed stuff you can get from Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com as well. We will see you again on Friday for Storytime with Dutch 103 with all the latest news and everything else we can think of talking about. But for now, we the people.
We the people.